We are go in 3, 2.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. I'm Willis.
Hey, Grum here. It is July 3rd here in the Solar area.
And I am your host, Jacob Basis. Today I'm very pleased to present two members of Rise of the Clockwork, Daniel Lloyd and Dakota Davis. Rise of the Clockwork is a band along with a multimedia project. There seems to be a lot going on. I'm going to kick it off to Daniel right away to just kind of give the audience the most quickly summarized idea of what Rise of the Clockwork is and tell us what you have in store for us in the next couple months.
Right on. Well, we are Rise of the Clockwork. We're both in Mankato right now, and we have an album coming out on August 6th. We got our first physical copy of it right here. And we are a concept band, so everything on the album is part of like one giant story. The album is called Act 1 Infernum. And so there's all of these characters within this world that we have built that tell the story of this album. And we do have another short story here called Flash Sequence 1, The Misty Anchor, which is one of the tracks on the album. And this is about 40 pages and tells the story of that particular song. But right now, we do have the album already available on our website. We have it set up where you can donate if you want to listen to it early. You also don't have to donate at all. You just put in $0 and you can listen to it for free too if you want right now. It's on our website, riseoftheclockwork.com.
Cool.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it'd be cool to kind of like, first of all, what was the seed that started this project? Because there's a lot of things going on. And like, how does music fit into that? Was that kind of like the core idea, or is it this storytelling?
So my brother and I actually started writing pieces of this story when I was all the way back in grade school. And one of our big influences is Coheed and Cambria, who's like another progressive rock concept storytelling band. And they have like full-length novels for some of their albums. They have graphic novels. And a lot of storytelling elements. And so that's part of what inspired me to go down that route, is I sort of felt like there's a lot of ways that people are sort of presenting themselves in music. And by presenting it through a story, I felt like I could kind of hide myself behind these characters a little bit while expressing myself, but in a way that is also sort of like fictional and storytelling, and in a world that I sort of enjoy of like sci-fi and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Steampunk.
And steampunk.
Yeah. I got kind of like a tabletop gaming vibe,
Sure.
from the performance that I saw you had up on YouTube. Also, there was a lot of multimedia stuff that was actually, I didn't walk away from the video. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna put this on and listen to it while I eat. And I ended up not walking away from the video because you had like a full length lyric track behind you, along with all of these types of like how. What made you want to create something like that? I realize you don't have a drummer on stage with you in that video, so you needed to have a backing track. But like the full video, like what had you wanting to go that route too?
I think a lot of it is I just want our presentation to be something that is a little bit different than what you might see in some of the other bands, especially the other artists in town. I wanted something that where people look at it and they're like, this is a performance, rather than I'm going to a concert or something like that. For me, it's sort of like part of the art is setting up this visual scenery where people can really take it in. And we've even sort of discussed like getting some sort of like costume type things to wear, or more like stage apparel for us, so that we can sort of like fit the narrative and scenery of the story too, so that it can become more of like an actual experience rather than it's just like, oh, I went and saw that band and it was kind of cool. I want something where people are like, that was really like engaging, as far as the visuals and things like that.
Who are the two of you in the band or in this series? Do you have roles beyond that of like the writer? Are they kind of are there roles in the story at all, or do you kind of fulfill a character?
Not specifically. I would say that there are characters within the story that sort of are inspired of either like my personal flaws or like my coming of age story, so to speak. So there are characters that are like inspired from experiences that I've had. But I wouldn't say that like a single character is like myself or Dakota or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's important to note that a lot of this was written before I even came on the project. So, I mean, it would be fair to say that if there was to be anything that I would have influenced character-wise, it would definitely be after this album. Because as of right now, a lot of it was pretty well established by the time that I joined.
Sure. And how was it that you came to be part of this project?
Interestingly enough, and Grum will kind of have an idea of this, I was actually in a band in MLC, Martin Luther College, down in New Ulm.
Shout out Weathered.
Yep, shout out Weathered. They were called These Days back then.
What year was this for?
What's that?
What year was this for reference?
I was my senior year of high school, so it would have been 2013.
Okay.
My dad was like, this was back when I was drumming, by the way, not a great drummer, but I was trying, and my dad found a Craigslist ad and was like, hey, there's these guys over at Martin Luther College, and I was like, whatever, I'll go try out, and I tried out. I was able to make it in, and then through working with them, I ended up meeting Evan, who was a mutual friend of mine and Danny's that kind of introduced me to them. And then right when I started kind of like doing some music with Danny and Nick and Evan, Weathered was like, you're done, bye. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm with these guys now. And they liked my voice. So, I mean, that's as far as I remember it. I don't know if there's details I'm missing.
Just for lore's sake, I was the following drummer.
Yeah.
In Weathered, and I had a similar experience to you, just like trying out for an ad, not really knowing what I was doing.
Sure.
So we have a similar story in that way.
Oh, so they were putting out ads while I was drumming?
No.
Good to know. Good to know. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No hard feelings to them whatsoever. It was a great
It
experience.
was so long ago. I got kicked out of that band too. So
Yeah,
we're
you were
good.
like 10 times the drummer I ever was. So.
And then what was your first project like, or has this, like you mentioned that some of these character ideas have been kicking around since grade school for you. This has this world building just been that long?
So when my brother and I started talking about this back when I was in grade school, and I actually, side note here, one of the tracks on our album is called Flash Sequence 1, The Misty Anchor. And Dakota, myself, and our previous guitarist, Nick, when we were in college at MLC, we recorded an acoustic version of it. And I was trying to find that acoustic version of it, so I just looked up in Google. I'm like, maybe if I just look up The Misty Anchor, I'll find it. And I found some old Ultimate Guitar Tabs website posts from my brother from like 2008, where he was talking about like this story concerning the Misty Anchor. And I was like, man, that's kind of nostalgic. And I really haven't talked to my brother too much about the project because he's in South Dakota now. And after I looked at that, I sent him a message and I was like, are you cool with me just like trying to keep this going? Because I know he hasn't really been a part of like the world building since then. And he was totally cool with it, which I'm glad for. And he said like if we ever wanted to like collaborate on the storytelling elements, we certainly can. But as far as like building of the story, I would say it really started to take on its own thing in like the last 2 or 3 years. Mainly because like Dakota and I had been playing music together for a really long time, but just not really taking it seriously. I think we wanted to take it seriously.
Then I moved across the country.
Yeah, he moved to Arizona for a little bit, and then he came back. And I was sort of forced with this decision of either opening up my own autism clinic in town or trying to pursue the music thing. And my wife was like, I don't know, pick one and we'll just do it. So I would say like within the last 2 or 3 years, we really started pushing in the music direction.
Yeah.
And part of why I like the different aspects of it, like the books and the music, and the other Tales of the Clockwork that we have on YouTube with like the true crime storytelling thing, is like music itself, there's not like a lot of money in this. Like it goes on the internet, it's free, everybody can access it. And so your really focus is on like merch sales, shows, that kind of thing, if we really want to turn this into like a career project. So from that perspective, like a lot of this is focused on like the long-term goal of how can we make this a career? How can we make enough money to actually survive on what we're doing? And I think just like solo pushing music, it's really tough right now because everything just goes on Spotify. It's all streaming. Anyone can just listen to it, which is great. But it's really tough to like keep that up long term, I think.
Yeah, I have made almost no money off of CD sales. I might have I think I used some CD sales to buy Reaper like 2 licenses ago.
Nice.
But all of my income is from just playing.
Right.
Yeah.
I play in 2 projects that are actively like gigging probably like 4 to 10 times a month, and they don't even have music out. It's such a weird time that we're in to try to be a musician.
I feel like the cycle of music online is very short too. Like people's attention spans for keeping up for it. That said, I do see a lot of people who are trying to tie in multimedia and like other projects with their bands. Like I feel like that is something that a lot of folks are trying to do. So I think it's probably the right move. And my hope is always that communities develop like active subcultures that they want to be a part of. People want to like feel proud to be from this part of the country and be like, these are the cool bands that I know from there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So
What with this example as this sort of pairing, is there much interplay between the music and the book? Like, do you encounter a part in the book that would?
That's one of the things that I think has grown the most as we've recorded this album. And for just like this song as an example, Flash Sequence 1, The Misty Anchor, the music and structure of the song, the way we wrote it, because we wrote it in college like 10 years ago, has drastically changed to what is on the album now. So like there's a part in the story where these 2 people sort of emerge from the tunnels in this thunderstorm, and it's really sort of like this chaotic moment. But it's also sort of like this peaceful moment as they're escaping this place. And so there's a part in the actual song where it's like very chaotic of sirens going off inside this facility. There's like an intercom person that's shouting some stuff in the actual track, which you hear in the story. And then there's like a lot of other elements of like the storm playing over this piano music, of it being like a bit calming, and it pushes into like this more chaotic moment as they're trying to escape on this boat that's called the Misty Anchor. And a lot of the lyrics you'll probably find somewhere within the story. As far as like piecing together what is happening. And I even put in like the foreword of the book, like read this, listen to the song. And then we also have a Tales of the Clockwork episode that is this story told from the perspective of a totally different person. And that starts to get you into the world of understanding sort of like the politics of what's going on and like who's manipulating who's sort of like good versus evil. And it sort of is like hard to tell because there's all of these different characters with different motivations and what they're doing. So it makes for like a very interesting listening experience to take the song itself, see it from the perspective of these 2 characters in the story, and then hear the other version in Tales of the Clockwork too.
Yeah, so it's almost not just like different parts of the same story. It's like different things canonically are unfold as you like consume different pieces of it.
Right.
Cool.
So like for an example, the main story is like these 2 characters are these insurgents breaking into this facility to steal some stuff, and then they're sort of like trying to escape. And this person in Tales of the Clockwork ends up dying in this book.
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. It's okay. It's not a big thing. But one of the main characters is like, you understand, like you are probably just going to be told that your family is probably going to be told that like you died a hero, but you actually died for nothing. Because you don't understand. And it makes some commentary on like war of like people are just following orders. If I met you in a bar, we probably would be friends, but because we're on the like opposite sides of this conflict, we end up enemies. So it does make some commentary on that too. But you end up seeing like how one version of it, this person is told, family is told that they died a hero, while the other version is like, you died for nothing. You actually didn't save anybody. So there's some interesting dynamics of like seeing the story unfold from different perspectives. And that's probably not like a super great analysis of it either. I think it would make a little bit more sense to get like the full context through the story and the episode.
Yeah, another really fun thing that I've learned from having kind of like this multimedia approach, because like there are beats obviously within the book that you're like, oh, that lines up pretty well with the song. So like, yeah, the music influences the story and then vice versa. But something that's even happened with me specifically that I've really enjoyed is we've added like Foley art kind of to some of the songs, which I never even really thought of until Danny was talking about how the story behind it and how there is this narrative to it. And I was like, all right, well then maybe we should add like some of these sounds. And he had some ideas for that too. And it's just really fun because it's like each can kind of feed on each other, and like what influences one might influence the other back and forth. And it's just kind of like this feedback loop that helps just kind of branch out things that you may not have thought of if you had it confined to like one source of media.
What's an example of a fun Foley sound that you've been able to create for it?
So there is, it's actually, I think it's the last song on the album. Who is it that's approaching?
It's just someone who's in like a garbage truck who's picking them up from the side of the road.
The walking at the
Yeah,
end?
yeah.
So we basically, what we did is we needed to have a sound of like a campfire crackling and then someone approaching. And I grabbed, this is when we were still recording out at my dad's farm. And I went out and grabbed a pail of just like sticks and like bark. And I just put on some big ass boots and just like put it next to the mic and just slowly stepped on them, and then kind of like stepped on them a little louder and a little louder. Yeah. And then I got one real nice crunch at the end there on the bark.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that'll work. So that's super fun.
Yeah. And in the last song that we recorded on the album, it's called, or no, this is actually in the Oasis. At the end of one of the tracks, the Oasis, it sort of transitions into the next song that takes place in a bar. And so he recorded some piano pieces to it, and there's like bar chatter going on in the background that we recorded. And then there's just like dishes clanking and like soda tops popping and liquid pouring and things like that we sort of included in the background to try to give it like, to try to push as much of the story as we can into the music. So there's been a lot of like little neat things like that we've tried to incorporate along the way.
One of the other project elements that's come up a couple times now, but I don't think we've covered fully, would be the Tales of the Clockwork series. Which
Sure.
I listened to a couple of those episodes this morning, actually. And
Thank you.
If I'd love to hear a little bit about, like, I guess maybe where they come from in this. How do they tie into the larger story? Sure. And where do some of those stories come from?
So Tales of the Clockwork, we have season 1 of it already on YouTube. I'm working on writing for season 2, which will hopefully be out in fall. And I'm probably going to redo the first episode of it. It was very poorly filmed because it was just like a, let's try this and see what happens kind of thing. And it took off more on TikTok than it did on YouTube and other places, just because if you can chop it up into short form content, it seemed to work better that way. But this is more of a true fictional true crime, which is sort of they're sort of at odds with each other. But I'm sort of playing a fictional character in the story that is telling stories of things within this universe. So it is as if someone has like a true crime podcast within this universe.
Yeah. And that gets it really right for me, because when you say fictional true crime, it just is in the style of, like, the story is told the way like so much true crime content is.
Right.
So like it's weird to like step back from like true crime as a genre and be like, well, it's not true, but like, you know, how much of true crime, like when it starts, like especially when something's unsolved, is like speculatory anyways. And,
Sure.
you know, maybe even with its heart in the wrong place.
Sure.
But I mean, you know, like when you have you're actually just telling a story in the style I mean, you can be as shameless as you want, you know. So
Yeah, it's almost like
you know,
satirizing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's a good thing.
That makes sense. I sort of found that there were one of the episodes ended kind of ambiguously, and like it did wrap it up, but almost in like a little bit of an anticlimactic way. But the story, there was these like interesting twists, and yeah, it was fun.
Do you recall which one it was? I might be able to clarify something.
Yeah, well, I think it was the ship one. They were on the ship, and it was raining, storming terribly.
Oh yeah,
and,
yep.
And I won't say the whole thing, but at the end, it kind of turned out whether they like couldn't tell. It felt like a documentary. I was just more of an observation of the style. Like it kind of matter of factly wrapped the like. Well, we don't know whether it did or didn't have an impact, but they didn't have any issues following that. Occurrence.
You're referring to an episode called it's the Banishing Ritual.
Yeah.
So the captain of that ship that's in the story, Captain Ahmed, he's in this story.
Okay.
So there is like some overlap of, if you watch these episodes and you read the book and you listen to the music, there is a lot of overlap of some of these characters. And something within the world that maybe you can end up picking up on from like the pyramid on the book cover, or like part of the logo has a pyramid on it too with like this cog on top. Is like these clockwork beings within the story are like mechanical versions of Egyptian gods and goddesses. So there is like Egyptian mythology and lore built into the story.
Yeah.
So like in the Banishing Ritual, it's talking about
There's
this
a
sea
sun
creature.
god ritual, right? They
Yeah.
were trying to call on Ra.
Right, to banish like this sea creature that supposedly exists called Apep or Apophis. So like built into the story, there is that lore. So if you're looking at it from like and some of this takes inspiration from a show called Lost, of like this science versus faith type thing. Of like, are you someone who thinks like this storm that was going to destroy the ship stopped because of this ritual, and it was like a faith-based thing, or was there some sort of like science behind it too? So some of it is left a little bit open-ended in that way, but there are like clues left behind in like the book and the album and the broader storytelling elements of it that might be able to piece some of it together.
Yeah, the one that I was able to catch was the newest one, and at first, like I was like, why do they do things that way? And then I figured that it was about the immersion from like you are a person who's telling the true crime story, and that took a second because there was a point in the video where you show a photo of the guy and it says actual photo of
Right.
I was like, wait, why would they do that? And I'm like, oh, like it's just part of the immersion into the story. I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Sure. And a lot, like most of the images that are in there, I just put into an AI generator and try to like tell it what I'm looking for. And you can get some of them to be realistic, but even when I showed some of the episodes to my wife the first time, she was like, real photo of Otto? Who is this? But yes, that's sort of like and even when I introduce myself at the start of these episodes, like I have a different name. I think I call myself like Uriah Baker or something like that. Where like this would be a show on the internet within the story. So like there are people within this universe watching this show. I don't really know how like perspective wise that works of like where we are, but that's sort of like how it was designed so that I can kind of tell these stories in a way that isn't super tied to reality or like super close to something that is real.
You should get super meta and have another person associated with the project do a
Reaction.
like
reaction. For sure. Yeah, it's like Jack's Films and Sniper Wolf type shit. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no, that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, I'll react to that guy's videos whenever he puts them out.
Well, and at the end of the first season, at the end of the 6th episode, I get like arrested and taken off screen.
Ooh.
because I start like delving into like these government conspiracy theories. And so I get arrested at the end of it. And so for like the start of season 2, we were talking about like having a completely new host for the start, like the first 2 episodes, because like I'm technically in jail somewhere within this world.
That's like every conspiracy theorist
Dream
podcaster. What? Yeah. It's like they took me. Look!
It's gonna get so many views now.
Are there any multi-mixed media formats for things that you like haven't tried yet but are really excited about?
I've looked into comics. There was a comic artist on your podcast.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name offhand, but I did reach out to that person and we talked back and forth about getting just like a comic of like this book. But I think financially it just didn't make sense for us right now because at the end of the day, like I have to try to make my money back on some of these things.
Yeah.
And while comics are really cool, they're also pretty expensive to get done in a way. And I really like the person's art style and I thought it would have been a great fit. But I think just like financially from our perspective, and for the sake of my wife, who is like very graciously letting me pour a lot of our funds and money into this project, as ridiculous as it sounds, of like some sort of steampunk society ruled by Egyptian mythology, is sort of like a little bit out there. But she's been great in letting us sort of like dive into this. But I would say comics is sort of like the main thing that we've looked into. The other thing would be just on like the merch side of things, because there are like all of these steampunk gods within the story, to get like little chibi pins of all of them, I think would make for like fun little collector items and things like that too.
What about clocks, dude?
Yeah, I mean, we get into the clock business too.
They're like,
Hell yeah.
you gotta.
I was almost imagining it as a theatrical performance. I know you do like a band performance.
Oh, yeah.
But if you took the band and made them like a backing band, and then you had like characters on the stage, doing
Almost like a
some big-
musical?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My band has plans to do that.
It sounds like it maybe is ripe for it with all the stories.
I wore a hood once.
That counts for something.
We're getting there.
certainly.
We're on the way.
Yeah, if you guys aren't aware, I'm in this band called Quantum Mechanics, and it's like a conceptual band where we're like interdimensional travelers who go around and fix stuff. And we definitely have dreams about that.
I love that.
Like having like control stuff on stage and like actors. And,
Nice.
Yeah, and there's characters as everything. The guy I play with, Eli Hain, he has a whole world that he's also built around this character, Captain Gravitone, that mostly takes place in the circus. Captain Gravitone's powers are love, empathy, and understanding. That's his superpower.
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
Maybe at one point your dimensional beings end up into the Clockwork.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
universe,
we
and then
we've been there for sure.
Universal
Well,
Clockwork.
There you go.
But yeah, so I'm very familiar with this whole thing, and we've had dreams of very similar things.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
There's already dimensional travel in our story, so
Beautiful.
it would fit right in.
Yeah, and we're very different too. We're more like jam band silliness is more our thing. So we talk.
And
about
then we
so
take
much
ourselves way too seriously.
we call ourselves pseudoscience jazz.
Nice.
I love that. That's cool. Yeah, it does get a little weird sometimes when people look our band name up, though, because there is an entire genre of My Little Pony called Rise of the Clockwork Stallions.
Love it.
So like it gets into some weird territory. Every time I tell people to look us up, I'm like, Rise of the Clockwork, not the ponies.
Have you thought about just throwing a pony OC in there and just capitalizing?
I mean, hey, push comes to shove, we may have to.
Yeah, there you go.
A little logo that's misleading.
Might as well.
Cool. Well, what's next? So we've got an album that's partially available, but coming to streaming everywhere near you soon. What else have you got in the pipeline? I know you said some of these songs on this album are actually written long ago. Are you writing new stuff for future projects, or where are you at with the future?
So I already have pretty much the entire story arc for Act 2 already mapped out.
Okay.
I have a good chunk of music written for a lot of the songs already, and spot lyrics for different things in the other songs. So I'm not really sure how we're going to handle that release. I think doing shorter things is a little bit better than like pumping out like a full concept album. I think people's attention spans, it's just hard to like, boom, here's an album, go listen to it. So it might be broken up into like 2 like 6-song parts or things like that. So that is in the works. I'm working on starting the next like short story book. And that is going to be for 2 songs on this album called Shimmers of Fate and The Oasis are going to be put into one story. And the main character in that is like very, very odd. His name is Mikhail. He's in one of the Tales of the Clockwork episodes as well called A New You. But he is like this scientist who taught at a university that is like a botanist and a neurologist who tried to extract people's memories and put it into seeds so that if you grew the tree, you could eat the fruit and like attain the memories of the person. But he ended up like experimenting on his fiance, and then she died. So he's like obsessed with like trying to keep her body preserved and to inject her memories into other people in order to like recreate this person that he lost. And it's sort of like a commentary on certain relationships where people are like trying to create the other person into something that they're not. And how you can look at like the people in those relationships rarely end up fulfilled. And he's like constantly angry and upset that he can't recreate this person that he lost.
Yeah, there's a part in the album where you hear like maniacal laughter. That's him.
Yeah.
That's Mikhail.
I listened to that Tale of the Clockwork story too, so that was fun.
Yeah.
To hear that connection.
And he's a very prominent character in like the second half of this album. And he's going to be like one of the main characters going forward too, as we move into Act 2 of this story. So that we're working on. We have Tales of the Clockwork Season 2, which will probably be out in fall. But those are the main things that we're looking at right now is album 2, new book.
Just play many shows in between as much as we can.
Yeah. And maybe we'll find some band members along the way.
Any drummers, hit us up.
If somebody wanted to catch you guys in live performance, do you have anything coming up they could see? Find you?
Yeah, the festival.
Well, the only thing that we have coming up is in Elysian at like the Scoop. There's some like Scoops Festival there, but we're just doing an acoustic show. It's for they have some benefit thing there that they're doing it for. But other than that, we don't have anything lined up right now. We are probably going to do a show out at the farm on August 10th. I think it is. We're still hashing out some of the details of that and finding some other people that want to.
Be like an album release kind of show type deal.
Yeah.
Cool.
Where you just get friends, family, barbecue, hang out, good time.
I thought the YouTube video you guys had up of your performance at the Muse was really good. Like I like that. I also realized like I watched like 2/3 of that, and then I went over the album and I was like, oh, this is just the same thing as the album. So like it's a really good spot to start because you get to see the visuals and some of the stage presence. So if you're looking for somewhere to start, I think that's a really cool spot. And right there, you'll be able to click onto those YouTube videos with the tales. So check out their YouTube. I think it was Rise of the Clockwork Official.
Yeah.
No ponies.
There's a story behind the why it says official, and it was because like 11 years ago, we had a show filmed that we played
Station 4.
at Station 4
R.I.P.
in Minneapolis. And the person that filmed it used the name Rise of the Clockwork for the YouTube channel and even has like the @Rise of the Clockwork in the thing.
Oh, no.
And we can't get it because it's just like tied to this one isolated channel that has a single live performance on it.
He doesn't even know I've talked to him. He doesn't even know how to get back into that channel.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea.
What you should
taken.
do is you should record that song, throw it on Spotify, and then copyright strike them.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get a lot of revenue from all that.
Yeah.
So 120 views
You might be
ads.
able to you might actually be able to get control of the channel
Sure, that's true.
if it's their only video.
Something to think about.
Yeah.
Is there any other projects or things that you guys do that you want to shout out before we start wrapping up here? Or any place that people can find out more about you guys and Rise of the Clockwork?
So we have our website pretty much has channels to go everywhere that you need to. There's links on there to our TikTok, our Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of that stuff.
It's just riseoftheclockwork.com.
Yep.
Super simple.
riseoftheclockwork.com. It'll have links for the book. There is an ebook version of it that you can get on Amazon too, if that's your jam. There's a digital version of the album that's on there. It's up for donation, but you can literally just put in $0 if you want. We don't care. It'll be free eventually anyway, so it's just there if you want to help support us and what we're doing. And then on the website, there's links to all of the Tales of the Clockwork episodes, and there is another section that's called like Gods of the Clockwork that has like little blurbs of some of the main characters within the universe. So that's on there too. But otherwise, like all of our handles are pretty much at Rise of the Clockwork, and you should be able to find us.
That's awesome.
Shout out Triple Falls for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming
That's
on.
all shout out, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It was great to hear about your project and excited to see it develop. I think these artistic, story, musical, multimedia universes, it would be fun to see how people can make them a reality.
Yeah. It can get difficult, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I wanted to do radio drama. I thought that was the coolest thing, and then I just like ran into like a lot of like things that would make it hard, like finding a cast or finding writers. And like I feel like you've addressed a lot of those issues and like made it work for like what you want to do in your project. So
Sure.
that's really neat to see.
That actually is a big way Jacob and I got started working together. Was like we were theorizing this radio drama project.
That's awesome. I didn't
That would be
know that.
another cool multimedia example for yours, perhaps.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Radio
Right on.
drama.
Tie
That
the
would be
Foley
fun.
in.
Yeah.
Probably be cheaper to make than comics, that's for sure.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. You only print it once.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for joining us, guys, and
Thanks for having us.
Send
Thanks.
everyone to your links. Cool.
Right on.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Mic check. Mic check.
In 3, 2.
Hello and welcome back to this week's episode of the TF Cast. I'm Willis.
Hey, Grum here. It is July 3rd here in the Solarium.
And I am your host, Jacob Basis. Today I'm very pleased to present two members of Rise of the Clockwork, Daniel Lloyd and Dakota Davis. Rise of the Clockwork is a band along with a multimedia project. There seems to be a lot going on. I'm going to kick it off to Daniel right away to just kind of give the audience the most quickly summarized idea of what Rise of the Clockwork is and tell us what you have in store for us in the next couple months.
Right on. Well, we are a...
I fucking crushed that intro. That was the best intro I've ever fucking
Nailed it.
I want you to know that.
Take it off, Danny.
Take two.
All right, we are go.
What are we doing now? No. Answer the question.
Into the fridge.
We're leaving it all in. It's all staying.
So are we doing it again or no?